Ahora sí, tell me un poquito más. Hola, I'm Kim.
And I'm Cindy Gaxiola.
And this is our podcast, Tell Me Un Poquito Más.
And we're super excited because today's topic is, I think, a conversation that all of us, probably our favorite topic.
For sure.
All of ours.
For
Yours,
sure.
ours, you guys's, which is love and relationships.
And we heard you guys. This episode is inspired by you guys. We read your comments. This episode was very much asked for, to talk more about relationships, talk more about love. So we knew that this conversation was needed.
Yes, and we're extra excited because we have a licensed marriage and family therapist with us today, Miss Janet Park. And I feel like we're going to talk about everything, no matter what stage you're in, whether you are not in a relationship, maybe you're single, maybe you are in a relationship and you're wondering, okay, do I stay here? Do I work on things? Or is it time to end this? Or maybe you are dealing with a breakup and you're struggling with letting go.
How do you heal from that?
How do we heal? How do we let go? What is a healthy relationship? All of these questions will get answered, and we're super excited. Welcome, Miss Janet Park.
Hi, I'm happy to be here with you both.
No, thank you so much. It's seriously something that we are so excited to have this conversation. And we actually recently, in one of our previous episodes, we had a conversation. We had an episode about how to let go and move on. And there was so many questions based on that episode. And we felt what we did in that episode, we shared some signs, okay, maybe you haven't fully let go of this person. We talked about personal experience throughout research, what you can do to let go of this person. But one question that we kept getting was, we understand that no relationship is perfect, but people were asking, how do I know that, I can work on this relationship? We can work on making this relationship healthier, or you know what? It's time for me to let go of this. How do we know that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think first step is recognizing whether or not the relationship is in alignment with your needs and your values. Now, sometimes, many of us might get into a relationship where we're finding ourselves flexing and changing ourselves for the other person, where we're not able to acknowledge our own needs and our own values. So I think that would be like the first place to just sit and reflect within yourself is this a relationship that is in alignment with my needs and my values? I think from there, asking yourself, does this relationship already have healthy qualities? So for example, some aspects of a healthy relationship: is there mutual respect? Is there trust? Is there honesty between the both of you? Is there good communication? So those are different areas where you can look at your relationship, how is that like with this person? And then going from there, and when you are missing some of those aspects, I think from there, asking yourself or maybe also engaging with the other person too, is this something that's workable? Can we work on this together? Is that other person willing and open to work through it with you? And I think that is also very key, because if the person's not willing to shift themselves and you're not willing to shift yourself, then, that might give you some clarity in where to go from that point.
That makes so much sense, because yes, you could be in a place where you're like, well, some of those answers were like, oh, I don't know, I have some of those things, or I don't have some of those things, but it's the respect, it's those things that you mentioned, and are we willing to continue working on this? So for that person that maybe is realizing, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out. I think maybe it is time for things to end here. Sometimes just because we have that awareness, it doesn't mean that we are able to take that action. It's not easy to take that step. If we find ourselves struggling with that, but we have that awareness, what are some things you feel we could do to try to take that step?
Yeah, I think that's a very common experience. Sometimes we recognize something is not right for us, but we have a hard time letting it go. I think I think in general, people have their own timing. So it's okay if you, in this moment, don't feel ready. If you continue to work on yourself and continue to reflect within yourself and build that awareness, maybe there will be a time when you feel ready. But I mean, in terms of like steps you can take, being able to, again, first going back to that question, what are my needs and my values? Is this in alignment, and how can I live a life that is more authentic to myself? And then you might be noticing I'm asking a lot of questions. For me, my kind of philosophy is in life, it's not about finding the right answer. It's about learning to ask, the right questions within yourself, because there's different answers to different things. And so in like whatever situation you're in, being able to ask yourself those type of questions and find what's authentic to you in that moment. What do you feel ready to do right now? It's okay if you don't feel ready now, but what do you feel ready to? Another point of reflection within yourself too is asking yourself what's keeping me, what's causing me to hold on to this relationship. What am I getting out of holding on to this relationship? Because a lot of times people have a hard time letting go because, maybe underlying there's kind of a reason why we're holding on to something. So yeah, I think those are some areas to definitely explore.
I love that you bring up the fact that we can ask ourselves those questions because, again, going back to the how to let go and move on, we ask, how do I know it's time to let go and move on? And the question was, is this relationship draining me? Is this bringing me more pain than happiness? And what was so shocking to me was that most of the people, a lot of the conversations that we had, a lot of the people that were engaging with us with these questions, they were answering, yes, it's not bringing me happiness. Yes, it's not bringing me pain. Yes, yes, it's bringing me pain. Yes, I am not happy in this. Yet
It doesn't align with my
values. Yet I can't let go. I can't let this person go. And when we see that, we're like, what? Like, why? If it's not aligning, if it's not bringing you happiness, why is it that we are just so attached to this? What is it that makes it so hard for us to let go and move on from that if it's not aligning, if it's not bringing us the happiness that, we deserve?
Well, I think in a way you answered your question, attach. You are attached to that person. Wow. And so when we have an attachment, it's not so easy to let that person go. Think about it in this way too. Especially if it's a longer relationship, you may have invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, your resources into this person. And so it is a kind of loss. And that's the other aspect of this too. It's also a kind of grief because it's a death of this expectation of this relationship, of what you've wanted, of this person. Because once you let go of this person, you're accepting that I don't want this person in my life anymore, or at least in such a close manner. So again, I think there's a layer of grief that comes with that. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard to grapple with that. Grief is a very complex and difficult emotion to address. And so I think a lot of times people may hold on to something because it's easier to hold on to that than to go into these other areas that I'm talking about. It can be really difficult for people to make that choice.
It's scary. You don't know what's gonna come after that, after that letting go process.
Yeah. So then, because it is so difficult, how do you feel we could start to take that step? Like you said, I love that you said a lot of the times everyone's timing is different, which is so true. And I think sometimes we could be hard on ourselves because we know and we're aware of what we need to do, but we can't do it. And I think that messes with us as well. But how do you feel that we could try to take that step in letting go?
Well, I think the first step is the recognition that in order for you to have this fulfilled life, it means being in alignment with your authentic self. If you're acting against your needs and your values, you're not in alignment with yourself. And so I think it's reconciling with that. And when you get to that point, then it becomes easier. The answer becomes easier, what you need to do. It's hard for me to like give one specific step of what you can do. But the reason why for that is because for everyone, that answer is different. What is in alignment with my authentic self? Is staying in this relationship honoring me? And if the answer is no, then going from there, what do I need to do in order to be in alignment with myself? What do I need to do to honor myself?
And once they do the step, they let this person go, I think one of the most, I would say, difficult area could be healing. I think as a woman, I can speak for myself. I think it's very easy to get distracted with other things. I let go. There's other options here. I can go here. I can go there. I think that's very likely. We could tend to want to do that. So then, is there something that we could do based off healing from that? What we can do in order to not fall into those temptations, into those distractions?
I think that's always a difficult period to navigate. Once you've let go of that person, that relationship, and then you're moving on your own, it can be very difficult. A lot of times people are wanting to go back to that relationship. It's actually very common to do that. So you're not alone. Anyone who's in that situation, they're not alone, because a lot of people have to navigate that. You built attachment to that person. So that feeling is very normal. I think some things you can do is focusing on your support system, pulling your friends, pulling your community group, your church group, wherever you have roots in, really pulling in your support system for that support. Because again, this is a kind of grief. In order to navigate this kind of loss in your life, it's important to have your support system with you to help you through that. I think, again, going back to the question, I think the question in that point, in that period, is asking yourself, how can I love myself in this moment? What would be loving for me? And doing that for yourself, whether it's going on hikes, whether it might be going to the beach, whether it's taking up that hobby you've always thought about but never really got around to. So again, going back to your needs and your values and love, like, how can I love myself in this moment? What do I need to do? Even if it's just, I'm going to make myself a cup of chamomile tea. In this moment, what can I do to love myself? And again, you'll find as you continue to navigate on that path, you'll grow more and more in alignment with yourself. And that's what's important, is to live by each moment, asking yourself those questions.
And how do you feel we can recognize between what is a distraction and what are things that we are actually doing that are for us to love ourselves? How do you feel we could recognize the difference? Because I think there's a fine line, and sometimes we could try to lie to ourselves and say, well,
no, that's good. That's actually a really great point. I think the line is, are you being honest with yourself? So take, what I mentioned in healthy relationships, right? You see respect, you see honesty, you see trust. I'm such a strong advocate of not just focusing on your relationships with other people, but also with yourself. What's your relationship with are you being honest with yourself? Can you trust yourself? Are you respecting yourself? So I think, knowing the line between whether you're, really trying to focus on self-love and distraction is, am I really being honest with myself about how I'm feeling in this moment? There's going to be periods where you might be feeling sad, you might be feeling down. Are you owning that within yourself? Are you acknowledging those feelings? Are you holding yourself with self-compassion in that? I think when we start avoiding those emotions, then we're not processing them, we're not working through them. And so I think that's what's vital, is, making sure you're doing these things, but you're also acknowledging how you're feeling in that moment.
And in that healing process, because it's a process, and I know the timing is different for everybody, what do you feel are some questions that we can ask ourselves to try to recognize if we are healed, if maybe we are ready to I don't know, maybe try dating again or whatever it may be. About what are some things we can do to try to recognize where we're at in our healing process?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very individualized. I think some people, they might find themselves like going through the process pretty quickly. Some people might find themselves taking a long time, and that's completely normal. I think recognizing that everyone's process is different. Again, I think it's doing those things, addressing that self-love question, being able to have some time to reflect, journal with your feelings. And then again, going back to that question, do I feel ready for this? Am I ready to go into whether it's dating, whether it's another relationship? Do I feel ready for that? Do I feel the capacity? Do I have the bandwidth to take that on? And again, checking in with yourself and respecting what that answer is for you.
One area where, say you already moved on, you feel healed, right? And you could be at your best. You're like, all right, I'm good. I healed. I'm ready to move on. And then this individual that you were dating, or this one that you were able to let go, he comes back in your life. He comes back in your life. It's like, why is it I'm at my best? I've healed. I feel good. I feel ready to move on. And he comes back. Is there something that how do we go about that if he tries to come back into our life once we feel healed and ready to move on?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it depends on what you want to do with that. Some people, they might feel ready to and might want to be friends. There's some people who stay friends with their exes. There's people who, say that I can't, that's just not good for me in my process to not engage with them. I mean, I think it's just really dependent on what you want to do with that, what you feel okay with, what you feel comfortable with. And again, going back to within yourself, is this going to help me in my process, or is this going to hurt me in my process?
Yeah.
But if they're trying to come back telling you things will be different.
I've changed.
I'm
a new man.
Take me back.
I want you back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have had that happen.
Yeah, I've matured.
And sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. Let's be honest.
Yeah, my perspective is always not a lot of times I think people have a tendency to look at someone and seeing who they could be, their potential, as opposed to accepting them as they are. I always err toward accepting if this person in front of me is how they're going to be and going to stay that way. Is that going to be okay with me? Is that going to work for me? Is that in alignment, again, with my needs and my values? I mean, I think that's the vital point to start with in that situation, is if that person comes back, well, again, is continuing to engage with this person, is that going to honor me? They might say that they've changed, but I think change takes a lot of time, a lot of work. And I want to honor that, some people might be engaged in that process. I mean, I think you can take that, into consideration. If you've seen action that this person is, maybe actively seeing a therapist, you're seeing that they're actively working, they're taking responsibility. That's key. Are they taking responsibility for their actions and actively working to change it? Then, again, going back to yourself, are you okay with working through that and having them be in the process of working through that? Again, that being said, a lot of the times people, don't want to change, and it's easy to say with words, oh yeah, things will be different, I'll be different. It's the difference between words versus action. So it's always looking at the person's action. Again, it's very easy to say these things, but are they delivering with action? Let me take that into account. Am I seeing them actively trying to change?
So then for the person that, maybe I want to take it back to the first question, that maybe they discovered, what, this does align with a lot of my values. I am respected. There's just certain things that we need to work on. What do you feel are some healthy, and I don't even know what the right question is, but you probably have, you could probably say it, but some healthy, I don't know if it's conflict resolution or healthy communication within our relationship to resolve certain disagreements or whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think one thing that's key, a lot of people, it's interesting. I think a lot of people seem to operate with the belief that if there's any conflict in a relationship, it's not healthy. So first thing first, conflict is healthy in a relationship. It happens. Disagreements are going to happen. That's completely normal and expected in a relationship. The key is how couples navigate conflict. That's the distinction. And so if in conflict, the person is, say they're like giving personal attacks, they're treating you with contempt, or you're treating each other with contempt, you're criticizing one another, you're not listening to each other. That's where there's a lot of area of growth. That's where, conflicts can get very unhealthy and damaging for both parties. The flip side is if instead, both of you, might have your feelings, you might have your emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. You might feel really angry in the moment, but you continue to respect one another. You're owning your responsibility, your actions, and whatever the conflict may be. You're able to listen to one another and understand each other's perspective. Those are some healthy, aspects you see in healthy conflict. And so, yeah, I don't know what your original question was, but those are some.
Like you answered that and more. So speaking of healthy conflict resolution and just ways we could try to work on our relationship, I would love to dig into, I feel like there could be this stigma with therapy and couples therapy, like, oh, if we are going to therapy already, then this is not going to work. But I feel like therapy is a healthy thing. What would you say to that person that's like, if we're going to therapy, this is not going to work?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a stigma with just therapy in general, but yeah, definitely within like a couple's context. I think what I would say is, for all of us, we learn how to have relationships from our upbringing, from our family, our relationship with our parents. And for most of us, we, may have learned certain habits or learned like to have relationships, certain things that aren't as healthy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all grow up differently and in different contexts, different environments. But sometimes we learn something that we don't realize is not that healthy. And again, this is for most people who has a perfect family, and so it's more about learning some of these, and we also don't have classes on healthy relationships either. And so, we are all kind of learning as we go at this point. And so I think my response to that is that it's like any other topic, whether we're learning math, we're learning English, you're learning what is a healthy relationship, recognizing that maybe I might have developed some habits that aren't super healthy in a relationship, and we're kind of playing off one another. We're both, engaging maybe some habits that aren't working. We're realizing it's not working, and sometimes it's necessary to have another person to help point that out, to have another person coach you and guide you through how to have healthy conflicts, for example. And so it's okay not to know everything. No one knows everything, especially about relationships. So I think if you go into it like with that kind of understanding that, hey, I'm learning just like any other person. None of us have taken classes on relationship. Maybe there might be a select few. I don't know if they're out there, but it's not common. And so we're learning. And I think if you go in with that mindset, I think it's not so much that, oh, there's something wrong with me, but it's more of how can I learn, something that's healthier and that's going to be better for our relationship.
I love that way of looking at it as a coach, as a guide. When you're trying to be better at something, you go to someone that is maybe that has studied that or has done that for years. So that's a very good way to look at it.
How could we go about that? Because say if I were to be in a relationship, I would love to be in doing a relationship therapy, but I don't know. I would feel like maybe a little awkward. Like, how do you even bring this up to your partner? Like, hey, maybe we should go to relationship therapy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I can understand the like uncomfortable feelings that might come around that. But I think in your relationship, it's, if in a relationship, you're both aware of your issues, whatever issues or conflicts that come up. And so I think one way of navigating it, again, with that perspective of learning, hey, like we've been having this issue, it's come up a lot, and I've been thinking about it. And I was thinking maybe we could see a couples therapist that can help us how to navigate that issue better, because I've noticed that we have a hard time working through it together. Wow. And so maybe having this other person, this other perspective that can help us navigate that in a better way, I think would strengthen our relationship.
What if their reaction is negative? What does that tell us?
I mean, they might tell a lot of things. Maybe a person is not open to change, doesn't want things to change. Or again, going back to stigma, some people have a certain stigma attached to therapy, that it's you only do this if it's like there's something seriously wrong, rather than, it's really a way for me to learn how to navigate life in a healthier, better way. We can always learn how to navigate things better. So I think it's just, I think there's a lot of reasons why someone might react that way. Sometimes it could just be about the stigma. They might have a certain conceptualization of what therapy is that it might not necessarily be.
But I hope we're all open and receptive of seeking that guidance and that help.
I was going to say that, man. I'm going to pray, Lord, may he be willing to take relationship therapy with me. I do have a question. Now, for those that are in the dating process, right? What would you say that are the most red flags that we should be aware of when dating this person?
Yeah, going back to what I was mentioning earlier about aspects of a healthy relationship, I think that's a good place to start. Again, is this person respecting me? So is the person honoring you as a person? Is the person acknowledging your needs and your values? Or is the person being critical of you, criticizing or attacking you? Wanting you to be different, wanting you to change. Those are all acts of not really honoring you as a person. And I think, that's one place. And the other aspects here too is like, is the person honest with me? Is the person openly communicating with me? So say, you have a disagreement about something. Is the person able to sit with you, listen to your perspective? If they did something to hurt you, is that person able to own, whatever their action may be, or able to hold your reaction to their actions? Or is the person criticizing you, getting angry at you, telling you shouldn't be feeling that way? Is the person gaslighting you, thinking, oh, that never happened? Those are all different aspects or examples of, again, of someone of red flags that you might want to look out for. Again, it goes back to the pillars. Do you feel safe with this person? A lot of times, like, you can trust your feelings. When you're with that person, do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel good? As opposed to, when I'm with this person, I don't feel good. I don't feel very safe. I feel like maybe upset a lot of the time, maybe because they might be criticizing you or attacking you. I think your feelings can be a very good guide, in terms of, is this person someone I want to be with, or I could be with, or maybe a person I don't feel like it, again, is in alignment with myself.
Do you feel like sometimes we deep inside we know, but we're afraid of facing that reality?
Yeah, definitely. I think that happens a lot. I think sometimes it's hard letting go of the expectation, and I think it goes back to the loss piece again. I think there's a loss with when something does not align with our expectation.
Wow. I feel like I'm going to rewatch this episode 20 times. I'm going to have a notebook filled with all these notes. My gosh, I feel like this topic is so important, so needed. So we are so grateful for you and for giving us these tips, this advice. Again, it goes back to, it's something that we felt it was important. We have so many questions, and hopefully I hope this is not the last conversation we have, because I still have so many more questions, but that would be a whole other episode.
Yeah, even just through our conversations, we're like, man, I wish we had enough time to cover this, to cover that. There's so many things, obviously we would never end, but this has been such a blessing. I would love to just go over, I want to make sure we're all very, very clear on what those pillars are for a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. So mutual respect, trust, honesty, communication.
Amazing. And that's just, pillars are the foundation for whatever it is that we do. So in this case, we're talking about relationships. So this isn't a be all thing, but yes, you're right. We can take it from there and just analyze our own experiences, our own relationships, and try to learn, try to grow, try to be better every day, whether we're single or whether we're in a relationship. Just make sure we're continuing to do that work. That's self-work.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
And I love that. We're all in this together. No, we understand. It's not easy. It's not an easy process, but I love that we can have this conversation, get these advice, these words from a therapist that specializes in family and marriage. So we thank you so much, Janet. It has been such a blessing to us. Again, we've learned so much, and I'm sure everyone has learned from this. So we appreciate you so much, and thank you for being here today and having this conversation with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I hope that I was able to give a little bit to help you and help your viewers. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Again, I don't think it's going to be the last time. This is
Let's
part
just
one.
make it clear.
Part 1 of 20. I'm just kidding. But again, we thank you guys so much for everything, for your love, for your support, for trusting us with these comments. Again, this episode was inspired by you guys. We read your comments. We conversated about this, and we knew that this was needed. So we thank you so much for trusting us, for being here. And again, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, we invite you to click that button of subscribe. We are also available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And yeah, right?
Don't forget to like this video.
like, and share this video, please. And yeah, until next time.
Thank
bye.
you.